London, 1893. The winter fog rolled over Baker Street in thick, ghostly swaths, as if the city itself had chosen to veil its secrets from prying eyes. Lamps along the thoroughfare burned low, their yellow lights suffocated into dim halos that scarcely reached the pavement. The air had the damp, metallic scent of coal smoke and wet cobblestones. Somewhere in the distance, a carriage wheel struck a rut, followed by the muttered curse of a driver wrapped against the chill. Within our modest sitting room at 221B, the fire gave a steady, comforting crackle, and I had been wholly absorbed in the editorial column of the Times, a mug of cooling tea within easy reach. Holmes, on the other hand, lay stretched upon the settee, his long fingers steepled beneath his chin, eyes half closed. Though his posture suggested idleness, I had known him too long to be deceived. His mind was, in all probability, dissecting half a dozen small mysteries culled from the Morning Post or the faintest sounds from the street below.
Watson, put down that newspaper. We have a caller, and a most anxious one, judging by the erratic tapping of his cane against my front step.
You can hear that from the sitting room?
Not merely here. Observe. 3 sharp knocks, a pause, then 2 more. That is not the rhythm of impatience, but of apprehension. Such a pattern is rarely unconscious. The man steels himself, halts, then forces himself onward.
As if on cue, the muffled sound of boots upon the stairs reached my ear, accompanied by that same uneven tapping Holmes had so precisely described. Moments later, Mrs. Hudson's voice announced our visitor, and a tall, lean gentleman entered, his dark overcoat glistening faintly with moisture.
Mr. Holmes, I have come to you in some desperation. I have been robbed, or rather, something most singular has been taken, and I fear what its absence might mean.
Hey, be specific.
The man's gloved hands trembled as he removed his hat, revealing a narrow face with a high forehead and eyes that darted about the room as if fearful of eavesdroppers.
A crimson envelope, sealed with my family crest. It vanished from my study last night.
Not your coin box nor your silverware, but a single envelope? Curious.
Holmes sat forward, the firelight catching the sharp lines of his cheekbones. I knew that expression well. It was the look of a man who had just sighted the first glimmer of an intriguing pattern. What was the envelope's significance, Mr. Percival?
Its contents are of a private, even delicate nature. I last saw it yesterday evening at 8 o'clock. I locked the study door myself before retiring upstairs.
And this morning?
The lock was unbroken, yet the envelope gone.
Ah, then the thief did not enter the study in the night. He was already within.
Holmes's tone carried the quiet certainty of a man stating the obvious, though to me it was anything but. Percival's brow furrowed, and I confess mine did as well.
Watson, fetch your coat. We visit Mr. Percival's home at once.
Thus was the peace of our morning shattered. In less than 5 minutes, we were in a hired carriage, rattling through the fog-choked streets. The city at that hour had a peculiar hush, broken only by the rumble of wheels over stone and the occasional bark of a costermonger advertising his wares. Shop windows blurred past, their fronts beaded with condensation. Holmes sat rigidly upright, his eyes fixed upon nothing, yet I could sense the machinery of his mind working at full tilt. We passed from the bustling heart of London into quieter, more affluent quarters, where the houses stood in neat rows, their brick facades softened by ivy and the faint light of gas lamps. The fog thinned somewhat as we reached the outskirts, revealing the broad gates of the Percival estate, a handsome but rather stern-looking residence, its high windows glinting faintly in the gloom.
A brooding house, Watson. It has the air of one accustomed to keeping its own counsel.
The butler admitted us at once, a solemn man whose precise manner suggested that nothing escaped his notice. And yet, as Holmes's gaze swept over him, I saw my friend's eyes narrow in faint suspicion. Inside, the entrance hall was floored in black and white marble, its polished surface reflecting the glow from an elaborate chandelier. A tall clock ticked solemnly in the corner, marking each second with the patience of an old sentinel.
This way, gentlemen.
We entered the study, a warm, book-lined chamber, its shelves sagging with volumes bound in worn leather. The scent of aged paper mingled with the faint aroma of pipe tobacco. Outside the tall windows, the garden lay muffled under the damp air, the hedges beaded with dew. Holmes began to move about the room with the slow, deliberate grace of a hound on a scent. He paused first at the mantelpiece.
Note, Watson, every surface here is thick with dust, save for one small rectangle in the center.
Where the envelope lay.
Precisely. And here, the carpet fibers near the desk have been disturbed in a perfect arc. Someone knelt here, but not to open a drawer.
Holmes bent lower, his gaze fixed upon the faint smudge upon the carpet's pile.
Ash from a Turkish cigarette, yet Percival here does not smoke.
None of my household do save my cousin Harold, but he left 2 days ago.
Did he? His coat still hangs by the door. That is not the habit of a man departed.
Holmes's tone was mild, but his eyes glittered. Percival shifted uneasily. I, however, found my attention drawn to the window. Raindrops clung to the sill, yet there, faint but unmistakable, was the print of a boot heel.
Watson, observe. Harold returned last night, entered the study with a key borrowed or stolen, retrieved the envelope, and slipped away.
Holmes's deductions flowed with his usual precision, and yet, in the shadows by the door, I saw the butler glance up sharply at the name Harold, a detail I filed away for later. But why such trouble for a letter?
Because it was not a letter, it was a confession.
Before Percival could demand an explanation, a distant sound echoed faintly through the hall, the front door closing, followed by quick, retreating footsteps upon the gravel drive. Holmes was at the window in an instant.
Too late. Our quarry has just fled.
I joined him at the glass in time to glimpse a dark figure disappearing into the fog beyond the gate. Holmes's jaw tightened.
The game, Watson, is afoot, and it seems Mr. Harold Percival has no wish to remain for questioning.
And so, part one of our curious case drew to a tense close. With the crimson envelope still missing, our suspect vanished into the London mist, and the cold certainty in Holmes's eyes that the matter was far from over. The moment Harold's dark silhouette vanished into the fog beyond the gates, Holmes turned from the window with a sudden, purposeful energy. His long coat flared as he crossed the study in 3 strides, scooping his hat from the back of a chair.
Watson, quickly, the streets will swallow him in minutes.
We were out into the damp air in moments, our boots striking against the gravel drive. The gate groaned open, and the fog closed upon us like the folds of some colossal shroud. The faint scent of wet earth mingled with the sharper tang of gaslight smoke. We hurried along the pavement, Holmes pausing every few yards to glance at the glistening flagstones. Here, a heel mark, slightly turned. There, the faint scrape of leather across a wet curb. The lamps above shed just enough light to catch these fleeting impressions before the mist devoured them. After several streets, the trail wavered, broken by a stretch of cobbled road where rainwater pooled in the dips. Holmes crouched, his face inches from the glistening stones, then straightened with a small shake of his head.
Gone, for now. He took to the road where carriage wheels have obliterated his marks.
I could not keep the frustration from my voice. And now?
Now we turn from pursuit to inquiry.
We retraced our steps to the Percival estate, the fog curling about us in damp tendrils. Inside, the warmth of the hall struck my chin skin almost painfully. The butler awaited us, his lined face a mask of polite concern.
Your name, sir?
Grant, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Grant. You have served the Percival family for how many years?
31. This Michaelmas.
Then you will know their habits well. Did you see Mr. Harold Percival at any time yesterday or last night?
No, sir. Master Harold departed 2 days ago, bound for Bristol, or so I was told.
By whom? By whom?
By himself, sir.
Holmes's gaze held the butler's for a long moment, as if weighing the precise timbre of each word. Then, without comment, he moved toward the coat stand by the door. Harold's greatcoat still hung there, a fine garment of dark wool with a faint scent of salt air and tobacco clinging to it.
Salt air, Watson? Bristol, perhaps? Or the docks of London?
From the inner pocket, Holmes drew a small twist of paper. Opening it, he revealed a pinch of pale ash.
Turkish tobacco again. It would seem Harold did not trouble to smoke elsewhere.
Grant's gaze flickered briefly at the sight of the ash. Holmes noticed.
Tell me, Mr. Grant, do you smoke?
No, sir. Never.
Holmes said nothing more but tucked the ash back into the coat and returned it to the stand.
Come, Watson. There is a tobacconist in Cheapside who caters to precisely this taste.
The carriage ride back into the city was slow, the fog clinging thickly to every street. At Cheapside, the shop Holmes sought revealed itself by the warm glow spilling through its small-paned windows and the aromatic haze drifting from within. Inside, the air was rich with the mingled scents of Virginia, Cavendish, and the sharper, spicier note of Turkish leaf.
Mr. Farley, good day to you.
Mr. Holmes, it has been some months. What may I do for you?
A client of yours, tall, dark hair, eyes of a pale grey, favouring a limp in his left leg, purchases your Turkish blend in half-ounce packets.
Ah, Mr. Harold Percival. Yes, I know him. He was here not 2 nights ago, purchased 2 packets and spoke of travel.
Did he mention a destination?
Only that he had business to settle and might be away for some days.
Holmes thanked the man and we withdrew. Outside, the fog had thickened and a fine drizzle dampened our collars. So Harold was indeed in London, but why return to the house under cover of night?
That, my dear Watson, is the question. And yet, I suspect we may have overlooked another presence in that house.
We returned to the Percival estate once more, where Holmes requested to speak with each servant in turn. The housemaid, a shy young woman named Clara, admitted to seeing a figure in the garden late last night.
Describe him. Describe him.
I cannot be certain, sir. The fog was heavy, but he stood by the study window as if listening. I thought it must be Mr. Grant.
Grant, when confronted, denied leaving his quarters. But Holmes's keen gaze roved over the man's gloves, hanging by the kitchen door. The fingertips bore faint smears of soil.
The flower beds beneath the study window are soft after rain. A man kneeling there might leave impressions.
Grant's face remained impassive, but I could sense his discomfort. We examined the garden ourselves. Sure enough, beside the muddy impressions of a boot heel on the sill, the same Holmes had noted earlier, lay a small scrap of crimson paper, sodden but unmistakable. Holmes lifted it carefully with his forceps.
Part of our missing envelope. But why should it be outside?
Back inside, Holmes seemed lost in thought. He studied the fragment beneath his lens, then slipped it into an envelope of his own.
Watson, we are in the presence of more than a theft. This has the scent of blackmail.
Blackmail?
Indeed, a family will disinheriting Harold is one thing, a confession to some private shame, perhaps of another, is quite another. Someone else desired that envelope, perhaps as much as Harold himself.
His gaze flicked toward the door, through which Grant had departed only moments before.
We shall visit the library after nightfall. There is a truth concealed in those shelves, and I believe it has been there for years.
That night, after dinner, we slipped back into the study. The rain had eased, but the fog still pressed against the tall windows, muting every sound. Holmes moved along the shelves, his fingers brushing the spines as though reading some language invisible to me. At last, he drew out a thick volume of sermons, from which fluttered a second envelope, crimson, unsealed but empty.
A decoy, Watson, planted here to mislead any who search the study.
The plot was thickening beyond my grasp.
The thief, perhaps Harold, perhaps another, wanted to delay discovery, to buy time. The question remains, what was in the real envelope, and where is it now?
Before I could reply, a faint creak from the hall froze us both. Holmes extinguished the lamp, and we stood in darkness, the only light a dim smear from the window. Footsteps approached, paused just outside the door, then receded again.
They are nervous. That is to our advantage. That is to our advantage.
Part 2 would end there, with the rain beginning once more against the glass, and Holmes's certainty that our adversary, whether cousin or servant, was still within reach, but far more dangerous than we had first assumed. The steady tap of rain against the study windows followed us long after we had left the Percival estate that night. Holmes had grown silent, not the silence of defeat, but of that peculiar inward turning I had seen in him when some hidden pattern was taking shape behind his eyes. Our hansom cab rattled through the mist-laden streets, the lamps outside little more than golden smudges in the darkness. Every now and then Holmes would tap his fingers on his knee, his gaze fixed somewhere far beyond the window. "You believe Harold is not the sole actor in this business?"
Correct, Watson. We are confronted with a drama in 2 acts, the theft being merely the first. The second is yet to be played.
He said no more until we reached Baker Street, where he immediately consulted his index of names and addresses, that strange personal volume into which he had poured the minutiae of London's more questionable citizens. At last, he tapped a finger against a page.
There. Abel Shaw, a clerk once dismissed from Percival & Co. Under dubious circumstances, I have no doubt he is the current lodger at the East India Wharf, and no doubt either that he is connected to Harold.
And what is your plan?
To pay him a visit before dawn, when men like Shaw are least prepared to greet polite company.
The fog had thickened into a clammy pall by the time we reached the riverside. The Thames rolled sluggishly beneath the wharf, the water black save for the occasional glint of reflected lamplight. The warehouse stood apart from its neighbors, a hulking shadow against the paler mist. Holmes motioned me to keep silent as we approached a side door. From within came the low murmur of voices. We crept closer until the words grew distinct.
Told you I couldn't get the whole thing. Holmes was there, he saw the ash, the coat.
And you expect me to believe you risked all that for half a letter?
Half is better than none. It's enough to keep her quiet for now.
Holmes's eyes gleamed in the dim light filtering from the narrow window.
Her, Watson. Now we have our third player.
He stepped forward and rapped sharply on the door. The sudden silence within was broken by the scrape of a chair. Then the door opened a cautious hand's breadth. Harold's pale face appeared, his eyes wide.
Good evening, Mr. Percival. I believe you have something that does not belong to you.
The door swung wider, revealing Shaw, a wiry man with sharp features and a restless glance. He looked from Holmes to me, then back to Harold.
You fool, you let them hear?
No, Mr. Shaw, your own greed led you here. The envelope, if you please.
Shaw's hand darted to his coat, but Holmes's revolver appeared as if by magic from the folds of his own garment.
I should not advise it.
Slowly, Shaw withdrew a packet from his pocket, the crimson envelope, now crumpled and stained at one corner. Holmes took it, noting the unbroken wax seal.
Remarkable. You resisted temptation, Mr. Shaw. That speaks to either a rare self-control or a lack of understanding of its value.
I know enough.
I doubt it. This envelope contains not only the late Percival's will, but a confession, one implicating a lady of high position in an affair that, if revealed, would ruin her.
And Harold sought to destroy it?
Not destroy, Watson. Control. To hold the power of disclosure is often worth more than any sum in a will.
Shaw's eyes narrowed.
Then you know she's paying to keep it quiet.
Indeed, and you intended to collect that payment yourself.
Harold's shoulders sagged.
You think me vile, Holmes. Perhaps I am. But my father left me nothing, and she betrayed us all.
Your grievances are not my concern. What matters is that this document be returned to its rightful place.
Holmes slipped the envelope into the inner pocket of his coat.
Watson, I think the good Inspector Lestrade will wish to speak to these gentlemen.
We marched them through the wet streets to the nearest constabulary. Shaw cursed under his breath. Harold walked in silence, his face pale but set. By morning, the rain had ceased, leaving the city washed and gleaming under a pale sun. We returned to the Percival estate, where Mr. Farnsworth estate. Percival awaited us in the study.
You've recovered it?
Untouched.
Holmes broke the seal with a deft twist of the wrist and unfolded the papers. The will was as Percival expected, but the second sheet drew a gasp from him.
This cannot be true.
It is signed in your father's hand.
Percival sank into the nearest chair, the paper trembling in his grasp.
It names Lady Henslow, speaks of debts, a forgery to cover them. If this had been made public,
Your family's reputation would have suffered irreparably, which is precisely why Harold and Mr. Shaw saw an opportunity.
Percival looked from Holmes to me, his expression a mixture of gratitude and unease.
I am in your debt, Mr. Holmes.
Not at all. The true debt lies between you and your conscience, sir.
We left him to his thoughts and returned to Baker Street. As we settled once more into our familiar chairs, I could not help but voice the thought that had plagued me since the night before. Holmes, had we not intervened, what would have become of Harold?
Prison, most likely, though not for long. Men such as he possess a talent for survival, though seldom for happiness.
He drew from his pocket the scrap of crimson paper we had found in the garden, turning it between his fingers.
Dust, ash, and a scrap of colour, Watson. From such trifles the truth emerges, provided one knows how to read them.
And so the crimson envelope lay once more where it belonged, though its contents had cast a long shadow over the house in Baker Street and over my own thoughts. For in this case, as in so many others, justice had been served, but mercy was another matter entirely. The fire crackled softly in the grate. Outside, London stirred into its endless business, heedless of the secrets buried in its fog-bound streets. Holmes sat with his eyes half closed, the ghost of a smile on his lips, as if already listening for the next knock upon our door.